Bafana Bafana have an opportunity to steal a march on their rivals in Group C of the CAF World Cup qualifiers this evening. South Africa face Nigeria in Uyo, knowing that a win could take them to the top of the standings. Now, this evening's match is in Uyo, a venue in which South Africa recorded a historic win over the Super Eagles way back in 2017. Now, the man who coached South Africa that day was Stuart Baxter, and he joins us now for a chat via Zoom. Coach Stuart, a very good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon, my pleasure.
Coach, a big match that Bafana Bafana is playing against Nigeria, a situation that you know very well of. But before we get into that game, I'm not sure how much of Bafana and Nigeria have you been watching, but what's your take on Bafana going into this game?
Well, Bafana going into the game, I said when they played Nigeria in AFCON that it was probably going to be a difficult one mentally, because they came off some very good performances and then not to get carried away with themselves. I thought they solved that quite well in that game. This time, the boot's on the other foot. Nigeria have got a problem because they know now that since we beat them in Ujo and since we then drew with them in the World Cup qualifier, lost narrowly to them in the AFCON, and then again, South Africa ran them very, very tight. They know now South Africa can beat them. This is not one of those games where they think the Super Eagles will fly as high as they want. They know now that this is going to be a real game. So Nigeria could be the ones having the nerves. And I think if South Africa go for it, I think they have a very, very good chance.
Most of the talk, Coach Stuart, has really been about Nigeria and the players like Lukman, who scored a historic hat-trick in the Euros there. And many are saying that Bafana should be worried about those kind of players. I mean, are the Super Eagles that much of a threat, or are they individual players that Bafana should be worried about?
There you go. I think you've hit the nail on the head. Of course, we should be concerned about their top-class players. But Nigeria have always had top-class players. They've always had top-class players. When the Nigerians have been at their best, it's when they're a very good team also. I didn't think that Nigeria were a good team in the last AFCON. That is why South Africa ran them very, very close. They were a collection of good players. And they will be a collection of good players now again. But South Africa have got to make sure that we are a better team. And I think you hit the nail on the head there. We have to turn them into a collection of good players and don't allow them to be a good team.
Coach, if you can, take us back to 2017. What was different? What was the mindset like that you went into that game against Nigeria? And I mean, not too many people were giving, even us South Africans were giving Bafana a chance to win in Nigeria. What was the mindset like, and what was the plan?
Well, I think if I'm not wrong, that South Africa lost 4 times, 4-0, going into that game. I think I was in the Mandela we beat them 2-1. It was a sort of, we had a bit of an experimental team, they had a bit of an experimental team, but we beat them 2-1 and played well. Going into that game, I told the players, I said, the Nigerians believe fervently that they are going to slaughter us tonight. And they have got to just know after 5 minutes of the game, this is not the game that we want. And that's what we did. We pressed them high, we pressed them aggressively, we showed no respect to them on the ball. We tried to relax and play. We hit them quickly. We used the South African pace and mobility. We had Tokelo Ranti up front and Temeswani up front, and we really played well using the tools that we have. And I think that's what South Africans have to do. And it doesn't matter if it's Nigeria. Don't show them that exaggerated respect, even though it's on their own turf. I think we've got to get after them. We've got to show them that we believe that we can beat you, and that's got to be transmitted to them.
So more than anything, would you say that the mental aspect of the players, does the mentality going into this match, not being intimidated by the Super Eagles and their big international, big name players, as it were.
Exactly. I think again, you know, if you talk about the hype around every game against the Super Eagles, you can always find things to worry about. You can find things to worry about because it's such an intimidating venue. You can say, yeah, and we've had our trip up there was terrible. And I think the Bafana trip up there now has been terrible. You know, we can always find things to worry about and therefore feel negative about. What we've got to do is we've got to find things to be positive about and transfer that positivity to them, because they will hope that we are shaking in our boots. When they see that the South Africans are not shaking their boots, and by the way, everything that we are doing is telling you that we think we're going to win this game, then I think they have a mental problem. We don't want that mental problem. Give it to them.
Looking at some of the South African players, I mean, we talk about Lookman and them who are big-name players, but you've got a Lyle Foster who has played in Burnley against some of the big teams in English football. You've got a Percy Tau that is constantly winning big things, CAF Champions League with Al Ahly. And I mean, you can even go as far as the Mamelodi Sundowns players that are really doing well in the continent. Do you think that somehow would give Bafana that impetus and you know, going into the game, that Nigeria will also be a little bit worried about some of those players?
They will. They will. I mean, absolutely. I mean, Sundowns are commanding great respect on the continent, and there isn't a team or a club or a player that doesn't know what they've done and doesn't know who the players are. And they've also been profiling that for Bafana. So they're not anonymous, and they can say that, yeah, but we are this and we are that and we are the Super Eagles. But once you're face to face on the field, then it's what you do, not what you say. And I think if our boys, Lyle, for example, if he turns in a Premier League class performance, that will put them on the back foot. If Tembiswane gets a lot of the ball, if Percy Tau takes people on and plays in an optimistic manner, I think if they do that, it communicates to the Nigerians that we don't respect you. We're not going to be on the back foot. And I think that is vital. That is vital to gain that sort of upper hand on a mental plane, so that we can play and Hugo's tactical game plan can come to the fore. But I think we've got to solve that problem first.
Coach, just before I let you go, allow me to be naughty a little bit. Kaizer Chiefs are looking for a coach. Are you interested?
I haven't applied.
Coach Baxter, thank you so much for coming through to speak to us. Appreciate your time. Coach Stuart Baxter, the only Bafana Bafana coach so far to beat Nigeria in their home ground.